Morning, everyone, and welcome to your Florida Online Global webinar with Enterprise Florida and IBT Online. My name is Adrian Viller, and we're just going to give everybody a quick minute to finish logging on here. So it'll just take us a minute or so. We have some last-minute people trickling in, and we will start promptly at 10:02, which is a great time to get started. So we're going to give everybody just a quick minute, and then we'll get going on here. Perfect. Well, the time is now 10:02, so we'll get started on here. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. It's a pleasure to see so many Florida companies. This webinar was developed just with you in mind, so we're very, very happy to have you on here this morning. Beautiful Thursday morning here in Florida. My name is Adrian Viller. I'm head of business development for IBT Online, and I'm joined today by a wonderful, wonderful set of panelists. Joining us a bit later this morning will be my colleague Rita Benhada, Online Marketing Manager here at IBT Online. But we're really delighted here to have as well Madison Lawson, who's Regional Manager International Trade and Development at Enterprise Florida. And of course, we also have Robert Szalay of the Publishing Designer and Webmaster for New England Machinery, a Bradenton, Florida-based company, who will be sharing with us a bit of their experience with online business development tools. So in terms of a little bit about IBT Online, just before we get started and why we're here today, we are a digital marketing agency, a private company based here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, right on Los Olas Boulevard. And we are 100% focused on building, hosting, managing online business development tools for our clients to help them grow their businesses. These services fall under two categories, which we'll be talking about today: websites and online marketing. And I think what our best and most unique advantages is that we are a company that works, thinks, and acts globally, and we have done so since our creation in 2002, meriting us winning the President's E Award for Export Service in 2020 in support of us, or rather in recognition of us supporting U.S. exporters in growing their exports across So in terms of an agenda for today's presentation, we've divided the presentation into 5 sections. Our aim is to provide you with an information-packed, pragmatic, and helpful resource. And we are including time at the end for your questions. So in terms of questions, if you do have questions, the chat will remain open throughout this presentation. I will be monitoring it. So please do feel free to pop your questions in there. We're more than happy to address those at the end of the presentation. So we'll start today with a summary from Madison about what Enterprise Florida is doing to help Florida companies. And right before we dive into a Florida exporter story, we'll hear again from one of our guest panelists, Robert Szalay from Bradenton-based New England Machinery. Then we're going to explore why and how we believe websites can help companies grow their business and stay in touch with clients, prospects, suppliers, and distributors in today's online environment. And then finally, my colleague Rita will be joining us in reviewing why exporters need international websites and how they can best use them to grow their business. And then finally, at the end, we will have a bit of time for some takeaways and Q&A. So with that in mind, I want to pass it over to Madison Lawson of Enterprise Florida to tell us about the wonderful services that are offered via Enterprise Florida, via EFI, for all Florida companies. Madison, over to you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks, Adrian. It is a pleasure to be here. And you have the control, so I'll tell you when to go ahead and go forward. But you can go ahead to the first slide. Go ahead to the second one, and we'll go ahead and get started. So Like Adrian said, my name is Madison Lawson. I am a regional manager of international trade and development for Enterprise Florida. I am located here in Tampa Bay, so I cover 10 counties in the Tampa Bay area, and we have regional managers located throughout the state of Florida to kind of meet with Florida companies and walk them through that export process. So a little bit about Enterprise Florida, if you do not already know. We are the principal economic development organization for the state. We are a public-private nonprofit chaired by the governor of Florida, and our president/CEO serves as Florida's Secretary of Commerce. We do have 3 main offices throughout the state. Our headquarters are in Orlando. Our international offices is in Coral Gables, and we have an office in Tallahassee. But like I mentioned, we do have regional trade managers that kind of cover the areas that we don't have those offices. So I am here over in Tampa. We have partners up in Pensacola, Jacksonville, all over the state of Florida. Next slide. So a little bit about what we do. Our main objective is to see our state economy grow through the creation of advanced and high-paying jobs in our target sectors. One of the ways we assist our companies in growing is through an increase in export sales through our international development services and grant program, which is what I'm going to get a little bit into today. But I also wanted to let you know we do recruit investment into the state through promotion of our business community to both domestic and international companies to increase that foreign direct investment here and grow our economy. Next slide. So how do we do it? These bubbles kind of give you some examples of what we do, but we are here to help with whatever way that we can. Like I mentioned, we do export counseling, readiness assessments for our companies that are looking to get into international sales or those who are already international sales looking to expand into new markets. Our e-newsletter provides an overview of all of our upcoming events, programs, webinars, partner webinars such as IBT Online's webinars. So if you are not already enrolled to receive our e-newsletter, I highly recommend getting in touch with me and I'll add your email to the list, and that way you can kind of see what's going on, whether we have in-person trade missions, trade shows, virtual things. We always have things going on. I'll get into the grants in a moment, but just to give you an idea of some of these other bubbles, we do participate in a lot of international trade shows. I believe 2 of our managers are over in Dubai in the Netherlands right now with Florida businesses looking to increase their international sales. And something we do that is very helpful for companies to know is we have a lot of access to market research and data. So when you are looking to kind of look for customers internationally, or maybe even you're looking for another Florida business to kind of assist with contract manufacturing, all sorts of information we can pull with that market research and data. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So a little bit about the benefits of exporting. Many of you are already familiar with these, but if they were not so great here to expand our state, my team would not be here to kind of promote those Florida goods internationally. So some of the reasons that you would like to get into exporting is 1, diversifies your customer base. It kind of provides a safety net if you are involved in several markets and one international market or domestic industry is dropping while another one is doing fantastic. Promoting sales growth as well as mitigating those risks associated with those drops in the market. And exporting kind of allows your business to expand your products, services reach, increasing customer satisfaction and reviews. The next slide is going to be just an overview of our target sectors. So when I get into grants here in a moment, you can see who is eligible. If you have questions, some of these are broader categories. If your company is going to apply or not, definitely get in touch with us and we can kind of walk you through the process to see if you are in one of those target sectors or not. As you can see, professional financial services, that one is kind of broad. As we have a lot of services companies here, a lot of them are those who are interested in kind of using their websites to increase their international customers. That's something we can kind of walk you through and get into the specifics of what is our target sectors. This next slide kind of gives you an overview of a lot of our programs. So I know this webinar focuses a little bit more on virtual programs, digital marketing assistance. I'll walk you through what we are currently offering. The main virtual program that has kind of risen out of COVID is our virtual business matchmaking. Although it came out of COVID, it is definitely going to be here to stay. So what that program looks like is, hello. What that program looks like is going to be working with our international offices. So Enterprise Florida has international offices throughout the globe where we actually contract out to some full-time representatives who will represent the state both to recruit international investment and helping those international companies, but also to assist our companies with looking for buyers internationally. So what the virtual business matchmaking program does is you'll work with those international offices, talk about your business, they'll do some research on your product. You also walk them through what your buyer looks like. Is it a distributor, a wholesaler? Is it direct to consumer? And they'll kind of walk with you, do some diligence on potential buyers of that product, and they'll actually introduce you to them via a Teams call or a Zoom call directly. If you need translation, that's something we can assist with. But it provides a very direct way of meeting new potential sales, and you're having that due diligence done beforehand before you get to meet them, so you know it is going to be a credible buyer or partner that you're looking for in that market. And something I always recommend, even if you're not confident, if you want to get into that market, but it's something that has just come up, definitely have a call with our regional offices over in those countries, because they'll either give you a very clear yes or no, you should go forward with this program, or no, it's too competitive in that market. We don't think now is the right time for your product to kind of get over there. And then what is great about that virtual business matchmaking program is we do have a grant for companies that qualify. So if you're in our target trade sector, you're a small business, Florida business, your product or service does have to be manufactured in the state to qualify for this grant, but we will actually reimburse you up to $2,500 for after you have these meetings for the cost of setting up those meetings. And those can either be with our own international representatives, or it can be through the International Partner Search Plus Virtual Introduction Program through the U.S. Commercial Service, which does have a little bit of a wider reach. So where we don't have those sort of representatives, you can work through the U.S. Embassy in those markets. So similar to the virtual business matchmaking, it's basically the in-person version of that, which obviously has not been as common since the pandemic started. That's going to be called Gold Key Program, where you are getting these introductions, but you're traveling to that country. You're working with either our representatives or the international or the U.S. Commercial Service, and you're traveling, meeting with these clients in person, whether it's at their offices or they're coming to you at your hotel. Something Enterprise Florida does is trade missions, where we'll actually do this Gold Key type of matchmaking in person. We'll fly down to another country with 20 to 30 Florida businesses, and they'll meet with those potential buyers in person. There'll be networking receptions, usually an ambassador's reception showcasing our Florida company. So it's a really, really great way to kind of get your business out there and invite potential clients to some of these events. I will say we haven't had an in-person trade mission since the pandemic started, but we will be having our first 2 in-person trade missions, one to Ecuador and one to Egypt this upcoming spring. So we're very excited about those. Again, if you're interested in those markets, definitely recommend the trade missions as a good program. And we have a similar grant. So after you do that program, it will reimburse you for the fee of setting up those matchmaking meetings. International trade shows is another very popular program. Enterprise Florida will actually host pavilions at some of our international shows, such as Paris Air Show, Arab Health, Medica, but we do have a grant. So if you qualify, you're in the Florida target sector and you kind of qualify under our key requirements as a small business, you're making your product in the state or the service in the state, you can apply for a grant to be reimbursed up to 75% of the cost to register for your booth, and kind of reimburse you for those booth furnishings up to $7,500, which is a pretty hefty grant. And I know those trade shows are very important to a lot of companies that are showcasing their products, but not even just that, even just to touch base with your distributors in that market. Trade shows are really key, and they're essential to some of our businesses to showcase their product internationally. So that grant has helped a lot of companies kind of get over to those countries. The Expert Marketing Plan is another item that's virtual right now. So if you are a company that's not sure where maybe you should be expanding your products right now, we work with the Small Business Development Center to basically analyze your products and your business. And they pull a bunch of research and data, who's importing your product, who's importing products from the United States, what trade shows maybe should you be attending. It's a very comprehensive document. It takes a couple of weeks for the SBDC to do all of this comprehensive research. But at the end of it, you get this big data set that kind of ranks countries according to those indicators of maybe where you should start to target your business, your products, what countries should you be looking for distributors. That Expert Marketing Plan is a cost of $5,000. Enterprise Florida offers a grant for $4,500. So it's really only $500 to your business to have all of that data and research done on your business, on your product. I know some of the small business development centers around the state have waived that fee since COVID started. So it's essentially free for some businesses. So if it is something that interests you, definitely reach out to me. I'd be happy to walk you through that. The international registration fee. So that is something a lot of life science companies and other companies, when you have to export a product and you need your product to be certified with a specific license or permit in order to move it to that country, we do offer an international registration fee that will reimburse you for 50% of the cost of that registration application up to $10,000. So that is very, very handy for a lot of companies who require these expensive certifications and licenses in specific markets. Website localization. I know IBT Online, this is their specialty, so I'll let them talk about that a little bit later on. But just to let you know, there is a grant. So what they'll kind of do is they will reinvent your website, target it at a specific consumer. It is a fantastic program if you have a lot of buyers, especially if you're using an e-commerce website from another country where you need your website to be in another language. They have a specific type of different culture, so maybe even your photos on your website need to be specific to target it at those consumers. I will just mention for that website localization grant, the program that Enterprise Florida works with IBT Online on is worth $12,000 to get these new websites. Our grant covers $8,000 of that, so it's only $4,000 to your business. But I'll let IBT Online go into that one a little bit more detail. The last thing, I'll mention is certificate of free sale. So that program for a lot of cosmetic companies, food companies, even veterinary medicine type companies, they need to kind of get a certification that says where the product was made. That is just an online program where we can notarize saying where your product was made in the state of Florida, that we can do online, either digital, or we can send you a physical copy. Some chambers of commerces do this, but that is a service that Enterprise Florida offers. So you can go ahead into the next slide. That was kind of the bulk of our trade programs. I do just have a map here. So when I was talking about that virtual business matchmaking program, you can see where those offices are. So if you're looking into these regions, I'm happy to make an introduction to our Florida representative that will kind of walk you through what's going on in that country and if they think they'll be able to find you a distributor or some buyers, some partners for you in those markets. Go ahead to the next slide. This is what I was mentioning about the website localization grant, but I'll let IBT Online delve into that a little bit more here. The next slide is just a map of where our regional trade managers are located. As you can see, I'm over there in green in Tampa, but there is not a place in Florida that will go without a regional trade manager, so we are happy to meet with you as needed. The next slide is some contact information for these regional trade managers. So if you are in one of these specific areas, you don't already have your EFI contact, definitely reach out to me and I'll make an introduction for you or send them their information. If you're in Tampa, that is me. And lastly, here is my contact information. So if you have any questions about this presentation, you need copies of slides, or you'd like some flyers to some of those specific grant programs I mentioned, happy to reach out. And I will mention again, if you're not already on our newsletter, it is very comprehensive. We have various events probably every month that we would encourage you to either sign up for, attend. There's specific markets you're looking to get into, happy to get in touch. So that is my presentation, and I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me, and thank you, Adrian and Rita, for having me today.
Of course, Madison, thank you to you for being here and for sharing all of these valuable resources for Florida exporters. Before I was with IBT Online, I was a beneficiary of some EFI grants, and I can say and attest to how useful and valuable they are to growing a company's exports in key markets. So do get in contact with Madison if you haven't already. And to that effect, I actually have a little poll here that I wanted to ask the audience. So which of you are already working with EFI? Which of you have been in contact with Madison or one of the other international trade managers already? If you haven't, we're going to be sharing this information with Madison so that she can get in contact with you as well if you'd like. Good. So a good number of you guys have used EFI services in the past. Some of you occasionally. Some of you haven't been in contact with EFI yet. So I'm happy to share this information with Madison so that she can also get in contact with you guys. And I do see that we have had some questions trickle into the chat, which we'll take up at the end of this conversation today. But I'm glad to see everybody participating. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll now. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. And we're going to move on to talking about why Florida exporters need online business development tools. So, again, a little bit about me. I'm head of business development for IBT Online, based here in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm here to be a resource and a helping hand to Florida exporters. And in that sense, I talk to a lot of companies across the state of Florida. And when we, especially over the last 18 months, whenever we've had conversations about what their priorities are in light of the whirlwind 20 months or so it's been since March of 2020, they state that they're looking to, looking after their stakeholders, looking after their clients, their suppliers, or employees, trying to manage costs, trying to manage cash flow, trying to maintain those supply chains, which just seems to be a huge challenge these days. I'm sure many of you can relate to that. But importantly, they need to keep the cash register clinking. They need to keep money coming into the business, growing their sales, their exports, and their business. And that is what online tools are here to help you do. They're here to help you grow your top line revenue growth. So before we get into that, let's just first talk about why online business tools can be effective. And essentially, it all has to do with trends of the last couple of years, which have only accelerated in the last 20 months, which is that the world has gone online. These are figures from Hootsuite you see on your screen right now, and a couple of key ones that I want to share is that, as of July 2021, 4.8 billion people, that's 61% of the world's population, more or less, are online right now. That's a big chunk of it. And people are spending increasingly more time online, about 7 hours a day online. That's most of a business day. So the biggest takeaway from this slide is really that across the globe, your customers, your prospects, your leads, future distributors, future employees, future suppliers, everyone your business interacts with or touches is online, and most people are spending most of their day online. And this trend is only accelerating. Just in the last year, so you have an idea of this, between July of 2020 and July of 2021, 257 million people across the globe joined the internet. 257 million people. The US has 300 million people. Almost a full United States full of people joined the internet in the running year between July of 2020 and 2021. And nearly 520 million people, so 500 million people, joined social media in the same time period. So what does that mean? That means it is actually pretty good news for small to medium-sized enterprises. It means that there are very cost-effective and efficient ways for you to punch above your weight and connect with the right people and the right companies. So, as we mentioned in the previous slide, over 4.8 billion people are online, 4.48, so the vast majority of them, almost 4.5 billion people, are on social media. And most people are using, what are these? 99% of us are using this to connect to those social media platforms, a mobile device. And we're spending 2.5 hours on our little phones every day. And again, that trend is only going in one direction, and that's up. So companies have turned toward social media to communicate, and this is, again, good news for companies and exporters. It means we know where your clients are. It means we know where your prospects are, where your future leads are, and we know what they're doing. They're probably scrolling around on Instagram. So that is all good news for exporters. And this really doesn't just pertain to the B2C space. Many of you are thinking, well, this is probably for B2C. But really, there's a very strong case for B2B usage of these social media tools. So many companies in the B2B space, and you may be one of them, simply don't pay enough attention to their online presence. You may be suffering from something that we call the perfectly engineered syndrome. And this is when deep down you have that belief that your product is so wonderful and your service is so perfect and it's so niche that it will sell itself. And for the most part, that is true if people know about it. So that's the first challenge. How do you get in front of people? How do you get people to know that your service and your product exists and that it has all these wonderful benefits to consumers and to businesses? And especially now the companies are not meeting face-to-face. Madison mentioned, how in the last year that Gold Key program has essentially been on hold and hasn't really been able to deliver, and everything has gone virtual. And typical sales avenues like trade shows and trade missions are only really starting to come back now. You need an online presence that will speak to how wonderful your products are, and it also that online presence is keyword optimized, so people can actually find you, people can actually learn about you. And now the most important thing is that the people who make purchases for their businesses are doing their due diligence on your product, on your company, and on your competitors are online. They're starting online first. And you see that here, 94% of B2B purchases are researched before contacting a sales rep or a distributor. So 94% of people, before they ever reach out to you, they're looking online, they're looking on Google, and 70% of them are not starting with the name of your company. They're not looking for, Salesforce CRM. They're looking for something generic like CRM software. So in that sense, you really need to stand out, and you really need to sort of capture that traffic initially so that you make it further down the buyer's journey and your product is in the consideration stage and the decision stage, and you capture that in your sales funnel. So I also wanted to add that per the, and to the point of, B2C versus B2B and the use of e-commerce, per the US Commercial Services e-commerce lab, B2B e-commerce is about 3 times the size of B2C. So, and B2C e-commerce, as every one of you know, has just exploded in 2020. But B2B e-commerce has the potential of being 3 times the size of B2C. So we like to think of online tools as 2 interconnected pieces, your website and your online marketing. In the before times, it was perfectly fine, maybe it was perfectly fine just to have a basic core domestic website. And then, once a year, you kind of looked into it, changed the keywords around a little bit, added a picture, added a blog post, and maybe that was it. And that was maybe enough to get on the first couple of pages of Google. But that, and I'm being a bit coy here, but it's gotten just a tiny bit more competitive in the last couple of years. So, that's just not going to cut it these days. Today, to be clear, you still need a well-designed, optimized core US website with updated content. And you still need to do the SEO work, but that SEO work needs to be updated far more regularly. It needs to be freshened up. And you also need to have a thought out, planned online marketing strategy, including structured social media outreach campaigns, paid search, so that you can actually get found, you can be understood, your services can be understood, and people can do business with you easily, both in the US and internationally. So you may be wondering what that looks like in practice. So think about it just like this. You have, think about your website as real estate. When you buy real estate, the first thing you need to do, or you want to invest in real estate, the first thing you need to do is buy land, right? You can't build a house if you don't have land. So your website is land, essentially, and so you need to buy land in every market where you want to grow. Your US website is the first piece of land upon which you build your improvements, your buildings on it, and anything else that goes on in terms of real estate. So in web terms, that means a dedicated SEO strategy and a dedicated social media strategy to drive traffic engagement and conversions on those websites. Now, internationally, what happens, and in this case, we have Brazil and France as those key markets, is that you have real estate in those markets, you have your website in those markets that is localized and is designed specifically for those markets. So it's all professionally translated and the content is curated for the specific needs of the Brazilian market and the specific needs of the French market. But then you also have dedicated search engine and social media policies around it to drive traffic engagement and conversions, recognizing that different countries prefer different social media platforms, prefer different search engine platforms. So you have to be cognizant of all those things in order to optimize your web presence, both in the US and in international markets. So just to recap, Florida exporters can benefit from localized websites because the world has gone online more now than ever. And in a world where everything is seemingly in short supply, the online world can really help you connect with future clients, employees, suppliers who are searching for you in their local environment, on their local search engines, in their native languages. So in this new normal, access to effective online business development tools is essential to allowing you to get found, get understood, be easy to do business with in your target markets. Now, Madison mentioned the Florida Online Global Programs. IBT and Enterprise Florida have teamed up over the past 7 years to deliver the Florida Online Global Programs, which have shown measurable success in helping companies get found and understood and be easy to do business with. The goals of the program are really simple. It's to create a sales funnel, an international sales funnel to drive your top line revenue, grow your exports, grow your sales, grow your brand, grow your business online and to your top export markets. But who better than a real case study to tell you about how online business development tools have helped them. And so in this effect, we have invited Robert Szalay, who is the designer and webmaster at New England Machinery, a Bradenton, Florida-based company, to tell us about their experience with online business development tools and with the Florida Online Global Programs. So to that effect, Robert, good morning to you. How are you?
Hey guys, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Adrian, and thank you, Madison, on your excellent presentation. And my name is Robert Szalay, and I'm working for New England Machinery over 20 years. The New England Machinery is a packaging company, and we're building packaging machines. I know it's very broad, and maybe a lot of people doesn't know what is it in packaging machines. But I'm telling you, we're selling machines domestically and internationally. Broad, you mean our major companies, partnerships, and business with food industries, automotive industries, household industries, and pharmaceutical companies. Everybody who is doing something into the package, putting the capsules into the bottle, putting water in the bottle, we are there. And that was very important for us over more than a decade, to getting closer and closer to the international companies and international partners. And this is when Florida Enterprise and you guys step in this business 2 years ago, and we are very, very happy with this program. And you guys help us a lot to getting closer and reach more and more international companies. If you have any detailed question, please let me know and ask me, because it's easier for me to answering the questions than just speaking.
Perfect, Robert. Thank you. And we did have a question come in, and it's a pretty good question. The question is, how did you choose? I see that I guess they saw that you had the Canadian and Mexican website developed. How did you choose those markets and why?
Okay, so definitely the South American market is over the data, the analytic data showing increasing our online presentation and interesting from South America. Mostly Mexico was the main target, but over 2 years, I see it's not just Mexico. All of the Spanish-speaking area in South America is very growing in this type of businesses. And so definitely the first was Spanish-speaking website. And the Canadian came from IBT, because we have a lot of business with Canada, and they opened the window and told us the Canadian market is relatively, not just they speak English, of course, and French, but they are using different terms and keywords, and some of the business terms is different than the US. This is absolutely was new for me, but the data shows until the 2 years, after 2 years, when we localize, because I'm talking about website localization right now. So when we localize to Canada and localize our website to Mexico, because the domain name is running in Mexico, and this is very important for Google Analytics, because the Google Geo is looking for a specific area. So this was very important to build the virtual domain into the separate countries, Canada and Mexico. So that was the main thing. And through the analytics data what we're receiving the last 2 years, that's proving. So proving we are in the right path, and this is the way it is. And your numbers, Adrian, but show me how many people online. Yes, during the pandemic, this is growing tremendously. So it's every mid-sized companies, and not just the Fortune 500 company, every mid-sized company and small companies have to be there and have to do something, because this is our time. This is the most effective and most cost-effective product. I mean, enterprise to put in the money to the online business and try to be reach closer and closer to the end user.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's great. You know, it's really important to make data-driven decisions in today's economy. And one of the nice things about digital is that there is so much data that it can generate. You know, you can test things easily, you can evaluate their performance quickly, and then iterate, right? You can fix it, you can invest into what's working and pull away from what's not without, you know, a significant sort of barrier for you. Now, another question that came in is in terms of your goals with the websites, what were you looking to do? Were you looking, I guess it's kind of related to sort of a route to market question. Do you have reps in those markets? Is it direct sales? Do you have distributors? What were you looking to accomplish with the websites?
First of all, we're using Google Ads, and Google Ads IBT help us to build not just the website, they help us to working through the whole search engine optimization. So the first rule was the organic presentation on the search engines. The second was the Google ad presentation, remarketing and AdWords campaigns, and set up these campaigns. That was very, very crucial for us, because the keywords and phrases very specific for this business. And you know, if somebody looking for packaging machine, mostly engineers, mostly product managers, mostly somebody who's in the business, so they know what exactly looking for. They didn't type it in packaging machine. So they type it in some specific keywords like bottle unscrambler for PET containers, or so this is very specific. And the working with the search engine optimization, that's very crucial and very, very important for a company, for organic the organic presentation on Google and the other search engine, of course. So that was the major points. So and reaching, mostly we are trying to be reaching the end user. So B2B, that's the most important capture between us, as we're working with Salesforce, as you mentioned it, and the Salesforce and Google Analytics prove our way. And the other thing is what you mentioned at the international trade shows, this comeback. That's also very important, because through the international trade shows, we can build the bridge between the companies, and that companies make more comfortable if they find the product in his own language. I mean, let's talk about South America, so and Central America. So this is the most important, to reaching the end user.
Absolutely, you know, just getting found by the right people at the right time when they're looking for solutions. That's what search engine optimization in the local language is designed to help you do, and to connect with those B2B buyers at the time where they're looking for solutions to their you know, packaging product needs. So
yes.
And then on the other side, supporting you when you go to international trade missions, international trade shows, and then having that sort of marketing support in the local language, so that you know, you sort of cover both fields. You know, you can only have so many in-person conversations at a trade show, but then you have a website maybe running on a screen or in the background that people can look at and capture the information and engage with you. So
yes,
truly important. So Robert, last question for you that just came in, and it has to do with the grant application process, and I guess how much time you invest into this. So, how complicated was applying for the grant with Enterprise Florida, and how much of your time was consumed by this project?
Yeah, that's a great question because when the enterprise and IBT came in to the picture, that was the time when this is a mid-sized company. So I am as the graphic designer, webmaster, and every publishing stuff, I was overwhelmed. And the management asked me for more and more analytics and more data and more productivity on the website, and I couldn't handle it. So when IBT coming in, I know I am getting free, and I get, this is my way. So I absolutely, I'm telling you, the analytics and the optimization is mostly 40% of my time captured with these two things. And with IBT and enterprise, I'm a free man again, so I can work with the visualization and any advertising and any other publishing stuff what I have to do to this company. So this is it.
Wonderful, wonderful, Robert. Well, thank you again so much, and thank you for being here today. We really do appreciate.
You're very welcome, and thank you for your business.
Of course, thank you. So, what Robert just talked about in terms of website localization, very important for his business to attract B2B traffic to his website and to support them when they go out to international trade shows. But, many of you may be wondering, why can't I just use my US website? And many of you have really good US websites. And you may be thinking, well, let me just add the Google Translate plugin, or let me just add a couple of pages in other languages, and surely that will work. But unfortunately, that just doesn't work today. Search engines, whether it's Google or Yandex or Bing or Baidu, or even these days, YouTube, Amazon, Facebook, Instagram, which are all really search engines. They're combing through a lot of content to find relevant things for you. They're all searcher centric. What that means is that the algorithm is designed to deliver the results that it thinks are most relevant for you based on aspects like geolocation, which is why Madison is based over in Tampa, and me being based here in Fort Lauderdale, if we type into Google coffee shop, guess what? I'm not going to see any coffee shops in Tampa, and Madison's not going to see any coffee shops in Fort Lauderdale, because Google knows where we are. Now, compound that with different countries and different languages, and you can just start imagining how diluted search results can get, and how difficult it may be for the right buyer to find you, even in sort of very niche environments. And the reality is that you have to think of Google not just as the Google and one search engine, but it's actually 192 different country and regional specific search engines, which are somewhat interconnected. But adding a couple of additional pages to your website, and most certainly adding the Google Translate plugin to your website, are really just not going to work in terms of optimization and allowing you to find something. So, say you're targeting the German market, and if you're targeting the German market, probably this person is going to search on google.de, and more than likely they're going to search for a generic term of your product or your solution in German. And they're going to want to see metrics, currencies, metrics in the metric system, mind you, currencies in euros and that sort of thing. So you can imagine how just complicated it might be for companies and the right people to find you if your website does not have the right content in it to make sure that Google thinks that your website is relevant to them. So here's a great example of how country-specific Google's results are. My colleague, one of my colleagues who's in the UK, Susanna, and I, we both have pets. Today I'm in the office, so you don't get to see them, but we both have pets that like to bark and they like to play around during webinars. So we both look for squeakless dog toys. And I did it from here in Florida. My colleague Susanna did it from London in the UK. So both in English, both searches on Google. And you can see just how different the search results are. I got some results that you might expect from companies like Chewy, Amazon, Yahoo, but then she got results of things that I've never heard about in my life, things like barksandbunnies.co.uk, timeforpause.co.uk, and then of course she got localized results from amazon.co.uk and yahoo.co.uk. So the same search in the same language on Google essentially is going to give us a completely different set of data results with content that is relevant for each user based again on our geographic location. So here's another example. You also need to think about not just in English, but of course, when people are looking for in a foreign language, and take this example in Spanish, right? You need to understand your buyer persona and the vernacular to really be relevant for the audience. And this was the case for a client who sells auto parts into Mexico and Spain, and we were doing keyword research for them. And just take a look at some of what the localization process sort of looks like. When you're looking to sell cars or car parts in Mexico, you really want to use the word auto as the descriptor, because 73% of searches in that market for car parts use the word auto, even though you can translate car in Spanish as auto, coche, or carro. So you can translate it in one of three ways, but in Mexico, 73% of auto parts or car parts are searched with auto partes, so partes de auto. And only 27% of searches are using the word coche. Now, in Spain, which is another key market for this company, 91% of searchers used coche as the keyword and not auto. Only 9% of people used auto. So what does that tell you? That even though it's Spanish and it's the same search engine, Google, in one market, we really wanted to use the keyword auto, and the other, we really wanted to use the keyword coche in order to optimize results and drive traffic, drive the right amount of traffic to this website. So now keep in mind that translation and keyword research are just one aspect of having a localized site. There's a lot more that goes into best practice localization. Making sure that your website is specific for that market is important for the Google algorithm. So you want to make Google's job easy, because imagine Google has to comb through hundreds of billions of websites and it's trying to find which is the most relevant for the searcher. It's really, the onus is on you as the owner of the website, unfortunately, to tell Google, hey, I'm relevant for that searcher. I'm relevant for that dude in Germany who's looking for that dude in Spain that's looking for auto parts. That's me. So you need to make Google's life easier in order to be relevant to those searches. And that's not just Google, it's any other search engine for that matter. And there's also a few other things that go into it. For example, hosting the website within the target market. That means on an IP address from that market, registering the domain name. So having the right country code top level domain for Mexico, for example, .mx, for Canada, .ca, and making sure that the website is compliant to local regulation. Very important in Europe. Your website needs to be GDPR compliant. Otherwise, Google's just going to knock it off the results list. So done correctly, here's an example of what the results are, right? Here is another client for whom we built a localized website in Australia. It's on a .au domain. It's hosted on an IP address in Australia. And you see that SEO work was done for the local market. And so what the results are is that 95% of traffic to this website came from Australia. 86% of all traffic to the website came from Australia and New Zealand, and 99% of traffic came from English-speaking countries. What that tells you is that Google thinks that this website is really, really relevant to Australia. It's a bit relevant to other English-speaking countries, and is completely irrelevant to people who don't speak English. So that is how best practice localization kind of works, and those are the results that you can get. On the right-hand side, you have just a bit of a narrative of how you can target specific areas for this particular client. A lot of their business was in Southeast Australia, so in New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria. And you can see, in fact, that we localize it for those territories and provinces, so that most of the traffic was, in fact, coming from from that specific market. So a few other examples of case studies that we have for you. This is a company in Miami called Avionics Support Group. They manufacture PMA components for the avionics used in the aviation industry. And really what they wanted to do was have websites that would generate leads in emerging markets, support their on-the-ground sales reps, and optimize results on international trade shows. So ASG took advantage of the Florida Online Global Program to, in the first place, redesign their US website. Second place, localize it to China, Mexico, Japan, Brazil, the United Arab Emirates, Russia, and France. This didn't happen all at once. This happened over the span of 3 or 4 years. This takes some time, but it has shown measurable success. So one of the big things with ASG, and we have a whole case study about it, is that they got a $500,000 deal from an airline in China because they had a localized website in China that the engineering team at this airline could consume and understand. And as a result of that, their exports doubled in that time from $2.5 million to $5 million upon implementation of their localized websites. All right, we have another example here of a couple of other companies, so Palladio, which is a beauty company, and AeroCore, which is another sort of business-to-business industrial products company. But really what you want to see here is that we have options to localize to one or to multiple markets and to custom markets, and we also have design services, and we also have e-commerce services. So if you're interested in e-commerce, we do offer that as well. So before I move on, I'm going to pass it on to my colleague Rita in just a second, but I did want to ask you if you would like to learn more about website localization. So I'm throwing that quick poll at you guys. If any of you is interested in learning more about localization, if you are curious to see if this would be a good fit for your business, we're happy to get in contact with you, and thank you so much. I see some good responses coming in. A lot of people really interested in localization. Some of them just don't know enough about it yet. That's fine. I'll give everyone just a few more seconds to complete the poll, and then I'll pass it on to my colleague Rita just to tell us a little bit more about the other side of the equation, which is, of course, international online marketing. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for your participation. I'm about to close the poll now. Thank you for that. And so with that in mind, thank you very much. I will drink some water now, and I'll let my esteemed colleague, Rita Benhada, who's our online marketing manager extraordinaire, tell us about our international online marketing options.
Thank you, Adrian. So, international online marketing. So what you need is social media strategy. So basically having a social media strategy in place will ensure that your social media efforts are more fruitful and are working to support your broader business goals. Expand your other marketing efforts so your content has a chance to be seen by a wide audience, and if done correctly, the right audience. The second thing, and the most important thing as well, is to build brand awareness. So with social media, you have the ability to bring your brand content directly to your customers, partners, and prospects. Now you can be where your audience already is. So social media is one of the most powerful ways to connect with your audience. It helps you attract buyers to your products and services, and it gives you the ability to directly have conversation with those individuals at the time and place of their choosing. So what is important to note, however, is how your international buyer persona can differ from your domestic persona, especially in times like this. So in these slides are a few questions you should ask yourself. Are there multiple buyers persona for my export markets? How do they find me? What do they care about? So L'Oreal is frequently cited for how spot on they are with their international marketing. Here we have as an example L'Oreal USA. So women are on the top floor, empowered, in charge, and diverse. And then we have L'Oreal Mexico. It shows an office environment that is a little bit more relaxed and one that includes both men and women making decisions or collaborating. So it's interesting because compared to the US and even Brazil, which is my next example, is the only one with a man in the picture. So L'Oréal Brazil also looks pretty different from the previous two. As you can see by the imagery and the background, you can tell they are in Brazil based on the water and the mountains in the background. So the atmosphere looks like it's modern, but it's still tied to nature. It's basically all these things that are very pertinent to Brazilian people's life. And even the messaging is even different. They're saying that they have been innovating for the past 60 years to share beauty with all Brazilians. Each buyer persona is clearly different, and the messaging is respectful of that. So here is a great example of how different buyer persona interact with social media campaigns. This is an example from a Facebook campaign where we were promoting the same product, similar imagery and message, although of course we had to localize it and stay relevant to our local audience. So if we look at the result for this specific post, for the UK, we have generated over 1,200 engagements, and we were super pleased with it. But then when we looked at Mexico, we were blown away with over 20,000 engagements. If we stop our analysis at this, we could infer that our campaign in Mexico worked better, right? Well, not necessary. If we look at the can we go on to the next slide, please, Adrian? Thank you. So if we look at the full buyer's journey here, we get the fuller picture. So you need to know each market specifically and how they react so that you can look at the numbers in several ways. For Mexico, for example, we know that the market engaged easily. They are incredibly reactive and responsive, unlike the British. But if you look at the actual conversions, so that's the important bit for the companies, as it indicates how many actually went out and bought or asked for a quote, the numbers are pretty similar. We know from experience that you need to get those level of engagement in Mexico to get a good level of conversions, basically the sales. In the UK, less engagement doesn't necessarily mean lower sales. So each market is specific and you need to take into account this market specifics. Here we have some of the best practices. So it's very important to have a localized website because it enables you to act as a local and resonate with your audience. The second thing is to know your audience. So who is your buyer persona and what's the buyer's journey? Then set your goals for social media strategy. What would you like to achieve? Increase brand awareness to start with or generate conversions from the beginning? Choose which platform is more adapted to your business. Facebook speaks to a different audience compared to LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram. Engage with your audience on social media. For example, if someone comments or mentions your company in a post, it's important to respond. Look, analyze, and keep learning. Keep up with what's going on social media to always be on top of the trends. And then we're ending this part with one of our case studies with the benefits of online marketing, which help your business be the fastest, most cost-effective way to be found, be understood, and do business through social, search engine marketing, social media marketing, reporting and analytics, email marketing, content marketing, and HubSpot integrations. And then, any questions? Over to you, Adrian.
Thank you so much. So one final poll here for everybody, just to see if anybody would be interested in learning more about international online marketing before we jump into the questions. And we did have a bunch of questions come in, so more than happy to talk to we got questions here for Madison, we got questions for me, we got questions for Rita, we got a lot of questions. So we'll go through those pretty quick. I realize that we are on top of the hour here, but we'll go through some of these questions. I will close the poll now in the next couple of seconds. 3, 2, 1, last chance. All right, perfect. Thank you everybody so much for your enthusiastic participation. So a couple of just key takeaways for everybody here. You know, why do Florida exporters need online business development tools anyway? It's all because the world has gone online. Your clients, your prospects, your future employees, your suppliers, people who are search for you in their local environments, they've all gone online and they're looking for you in the local search engines in their native language. And so to prepare for this new normal, you need effective online business development tools, including localized websites and online marketing, to allow you to be found, be understood, and be easy to do business with. The goal of the Florida Online Global Programs is there to help you drive top-line revenue growth, and we're here to be helpful for you in your international and online endeavors. So at the end of this webinar, there will be a little poll. If you would like for us to get in contact with you, feel free to complete the survey and we'll connect with you in order to talk about your goals and see how we can be supportive of your efforts. So we do have a few questions here, and I will just rattle those off very, very quickly. It's going to be the fire round here. The first one is for Madison. Madison, can I use the EFI grant for e-commerce?
I feel like that might be a question you can also answer, Adrian, but I believe the answer, if it is incorporated into your website, that you can use it for the website localization grant, correct?
You got it right. That was a quiz for you. No,
Right.
it is absolutely correct. Yes, if you're building a brand new e-commerce website for an international market, yes, the grant is eligible and applicable for that market. Now, another question for you, Madison. Are trade show grants specific to trade shows organized by Enterprise Florida, or can I use it to participate in other shows in which international trade shows in which we may participate?
Yes, you can use it for other international trade shows. It does not have to be a trade show that Enterprise Florida has a pavilion at or someone is attending. As long as it is an international trade show, not a show that takes place in the US that might have a lot of international buyers. We do get that question a lot. It does have to take place out of our market. And if you're not sure or we're not sure, just send us the link, send me the link or a flyer to that trade show, because we'll have to look just to make sure it's large enough. It is in fact going to draw in multiple buyers from other countries, and we'll let you know if that can be approved or not. But yes, definitely reach out for any international trade show. It doesn't have to be Enterprise Florida.
Wonderful. I also have a question here in terms of marketing, and this one is for Rita. Rita, I have a question here. Do you offer search engine marketing as well?
Yes, we do. We do search engine marketing, social media marketing, search engine optimization, the whole package.
Brilliant. Okay, well, those are the questions that we have time for. I want to thank Robert Szalay from New England Machinery, who joined us from Bradenton, Florida. I want to thank Madison, Regional Manager of International Trade and Development, who's over in Tampa, Rita in Miami, and myself in Fort Lauderdale, and all the Florida companies who joined us this morning. Thank you also very much for being here today. If you need, our contact information is on the screen. If you'd like to reach out to any of us, we're more than happy to answer your questions. And again, there will be a small survey at the end of this presentation. If you'd like for us to get in contact with you, feel free to fill that out. Looking forward to seeing everybody at the next webinar, and have a great rest of your beautiful Florida day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thanks, Adrian.